You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Drew Del Pree. It's Friday, by God. It's another Friday night. It's glorious. I love Friday nights.
It is. What's up, Andy?
You know, I used to really, when I'm back in my younger days, I loved Friday nights because I was ready to go out and do some prowling on the town, if you know what I mean.
I do.
But before that, when I was in high school, I loved Friday nights because what was the Friday night videos, man?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
We have a local pizza chain here in St. Louis and called Pantera's. And Friday night, you'd go to Pantera's, you'd hang out, and they'd have Friday night videos on. It was, I don't know. And so nowadays, now that I'm older, I look forward to Friday nights because I get to hang out with Lou and we get to talk as much crap as we want.
I love hanging out with you, Andy.
I do.
You just reminded me of something. So, I was playing on the Mill Sim the other day, right? I know I talk to you guys about that all the time. You have to check out some of those shows. It is a crazy thing. Google it, and if you're interested in it, hit me up and I'll tell you more about it. But it's these younger guys, around their 20s, and it's just a concept of time that they can't understand. They were talking about arranged marriages, and I was saying, oh, my grandparents had one.
Yeah, it blew
They
their
were
mind,
born, and they were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, and then I'm trying to explain to them, yeah, my grandparents were born in the 1840s, man. In 18 like 1860s, you know what I mean? Like, or 70s, right? I mean, they were born in the 1800s.
Yeah, man.
You know?
That's wild.
I don't want to say 1860, probably like 1890, but yeah, it was in the 1800s they were born, and they came to America in 1920.
Amazing.
When he was 22 and his wife was 13. People are like, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah. What do you want me to say, man? That's 1922.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So no, my grandparents are born at the turn of the century, but at the turn, and when I think back to that, I'm like, that's so crazy, man.
Yeah. My dad was born in 1935.
Holy smokes.
My mother, 1937, 36,
Wow.
37. Yeah. And so, I was telling him, like, like you guys talk about having rough parents. I get it, man. I get it. Every generation loses something, though. I didn't get away with anything, man. Now I'm adopted, so my parents were older, right? That's, but yeah, man, I couldn't, was walking to the bus stop in the snow. My dad was like, the ice truck wouldn't come down because he was afraid the cart would swing in front of the horse. We had to go up the hill to get the ice for the refrigerator. I was like, what do you mean you can't go to the school bus?
That's another term that's been lost, really, because of generations that have gone by and don't realize the ice box.
Yes.
You called it the ice box because that's where you put the ice in to keep your shit cold.
That's what he said. He said the cart and the Iceman would not come down the hill. They had to go up the hill because he was afraid the cart would swing in front of the horse and drag it down the hill. So they had to go up. And he's like, what do you mean you can't go to the bus stop? Like, I don't understand. Like, he couldn't understand things. Like,
right. Yeah. Kind of like, you and I could, if I lost my phone today, I'd probably be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be all right. Yep.
But our kids, oh my God, that's the end of the freaking world.
Exactly. And it was just blowing their minds, man, that, there's they have a connection. They're talking to somebody with a connection to history that far ago. Right. Distant in the past. To them, it's unfathomable.
You're so old.
Right?
That's what they're thinking.
Exactly. And then I'm telling people, and I don't think I realized it when I was in, but those guys that were, like in their 20, that were doing 20 years, 20, 22, they were coming at the end of the 70s, man. That was like the, that Vietnam era.
Yeah.
The end of that.
Well, I had, when I went through field medical, whatever they call it nowadays, right? FMTB, I think is what they call it nowadays, Field Medical Training Battalion. I had a gunny and a first class that were both Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
And they were some scary dudes. I think I've told that story before about how the gunny kind of just flipped his shit. The HM1 was messing with him, told him, I didn't tell us?
No.
So we're doing our night discipline class, right? So they,
Sure.
how they have you in the bleachers and they have people out, showing us a cigarette, what it looks like, or
Sure,
flashing
sure,
a
sure, sure,
light.
sure. I know what you
So
mean now.
anyway, they kill the lights and they start doing that demonstration. I just so happened to be on the end of the bleachers next to the HM1 and the gunny. And HM1, he leans over and says, "Gunny, Gook's in the wire." And you could see this dude flipped a switch, man. And I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna die right here. I was scared for my life, man. And the HM1, he's just laughing his ass off, right? He thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Looking back, it's pretty funny.
Sure.
But at the time it wasn't so funny.
No, no. And you can see that, man, like, when some of those guys, I had an opportunity to talk to, um I had an opportunity to talk to somebody who was on the Cole, and
Oh,
and when they talk about it, man, um, you could just see them go back in time, and you're
yeah.
like, "Hey, come on back, man. You're all right. No, come on back, bro. Come on."
You know what's
They
funny?
relive it because, the Cole happened,
What up, Rick?
gosh, you'll have to correct my date. Was it 1992 or something?
No, it was 99. 99 or
99 or something? Yeah, but it was
99 or 2000.
okay, but we were not even thinking about PTSD or anything or wartime stuff like that, right? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? A lot of that stuff was not being thought about. Now you got me thinking, what happened in 1992? Anyway, but so they didn't get a lot of the treatment that a lot of the soldiers and sailors got when the war kicked off in '01, and then the Iraq invasion in '02. Um, so not their fault, is what I wanna say. But yeah, you talk to a lot of guys who were on the Cole, who didn't get the services that a lot of the other people get, and you could see, like, what you're
Oh, yeah.
talking about. Like, I saw the gunny. Like, you see that look in people's eyes when they start to go back in time and just
Yep.
start reliving it, and you're like, "Hey, bud, come on
Yeah.
back, man. We're
Yeah, it's
we're
it's
good, man. Come on
scary,
back."
man. Oddly enough, I was the baby dog of Cliff Mosier, who was the IDC on the Cole when it got hit.
Okay.
So, man, it did a number on him.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
He's not the same person.
No, no,
But
no, it changes people, and I always say, the one thing about the military, um is that they don't do a very good job of stress inoculation.
right.
And if you're fortunate enough to have a leader, which I think I was, I was fortunate enough to have several leaders who I think inoculated me against the stress, as best they can, right? I mean, nobody can really prepare you for your first time seeing the machine, and man, is it a machine? It is just if you ever have that opportunity to see the war machine, um,
Yeah,
and
skip it.
yes, give it right. I mean, but I know I hear what you're saying, but I mean, it is something magnificent. A friend of mine had a retirement speech, and he was talking about how he worked in deep intelligence, right? So, but he gave an unclassified retirement speech. I'm gonna say that up front, but he was saying when I say deep intel, I'm talking like shacks in countries with nothing, where he has to wait for the satellite to make his report.
Right.
And that's what he's doing. He's just watching and say, and collecting information, whatever. Um, and he was talking about one particular time he got somewhere, and he was telling the story at his retirement. He said, "There's nothing, nothing." He got there, the guy was living in a Connex box, the guy he was relieving. He's like, "What?" He's like, makes a couple of phone calls, gets, like, some drops, and he's got this, like, operations center now going,
Hmm.
and he's watching and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and he's making phone calls, and he's saying, within a matter of, minutes, we are able to move entire armies and change foreign policies. He's like, "There were 3 invasions we prevented in Africa. 3 complete government takeovers that all we did was report where they were, ruin their path of travel to force a direction change, to cause these things." And his point being is that this is a machine that many cannot comprehend, that is doing amazing things, for the world and doing amazing good out there, and it's a retirement ceremony, so we didn't talk about the potential for abuse.
And we'll never know about it,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is a good
exactly.
thing, mind you. I'm not saying it's not. It's definitely a good thing. I had the opportunity. I'm not going to mention any names. I worked with a uh, I worked with someone whose husband was 35 years in naval special warfare. What's up, Bear? And you know, through every facet of it, he started out as an E1, retired. I'm not going to say he was an officer when he retired. I don't want to give anything away. Um, and SEAL Team 6, the everything, right? And even a lot of the letter agencies. Well, I had the opportunity to do a video. I videoed his ceremony for him, and I did pictures for him. So I'm in there with all these dudes, man, and we're talking active and retired, and some that have moved on to other things. And the stories I heard would blow your fucking mind.
Right?
Now, here's another mind fuck for you. there was a uh, there was a Marine in the room, and that's all I'll say. But he was heavily involved with a lot of the sneaky peek spook shit, right?
Hmm.
And so that's why he knew a lot of these frogs. And we get to talking, and they say his name, and I'm like, I know this motherfucker, right? And we get to talking, and guess who we have in common that we both know?
Yeah.
Guess.
Uh, operator.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
It was small world,
It's a
man.
very small. It's a very small world. It's a very small world.
But I heard a lot of shit in that 4 hours
Yeah.
that I had no business hearing, and I won't repeat any of it.
It's just it's just fascinating, but like we were saying, it is a machine, right? Hey, so Andy, before I get into the rap, I do have to give a shout out to the mill sim. I was talking to a guy, and he said he did bartending. So I'm gonna talk to so Pharaoh. I told you every now and then I got a very hairy ass, and one will crawl up. So
I love it.
I practiced. I practiced with dummy bottles. I thought, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if I just busted out cocktail skills, like in like just grab like at somebody's house, just picked up their bottle and was just like over in the corner, like I didn't like, you know.
Just randomly out of the blue.
Yeah, so that was a great idea I had until about the third time it hit my foot, and then they've been under the desk ever since, laying flat so as not to even fall. But it's so that's pretty much where they go. But I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, if I say it there, I live it here. But are you ready for the rap, Andy? I have a song and every. I don't really have a song.
Oh, you got me excited,
That's
man.
the rap.
You know,
It's the
I gotta
rap.
I gotta write that shit down. We gotta come
Here's a
up with a
rap.
song. Chuck, if you're listening,
We're
hook a
gonna
hook
rap.
hook a couple brothers up. Need a rap song.
Don't you dare rap the rap. All right, guys, I paid for it, so you don't have to. Here we go. Steve Bannon's War Room, 18 November 24th, second hour. He interviewed Jim Rickards again, right? Love that guy. Great economist and lawyer. Rickards has a ton of content, and I encourage everyone to check him out. He's where I get all my financial understanding from. But they just had a generic conversation. Go check it out. And I tell you, I've exhausted all of Rickards' free content. Really good guy. So anytime they talk to him, I'm all over it. PDB, that's President's Daily Brief. Mike Baker's new podcast, really good. It's got short little snippets in the morning and the afternoon. Morning edition on 2nd November had a good analysis on the little known Trump pick, Howard Lutnick, who I believe is going to be Commerce Secretary. And, he's sort of, they talked a little bit about how, that's his selection is a clear message to China, that there will be an aggressive stance. So they had a really good conversation about that, right? Charlie Kirk, 20th November, his first hour, he talked about being in the room during vetting with the president's questions. And again, so if you're not familiar with that name, he's one of the new guys on the block, founder of Turning Point USA. And basically, instrumental part of helping Trump win the White House with what they did over there.
He's
I mean,
actually been
just
around
great guy.
for a little bit.
Yeah,
Might be
yeah,
new to
he's been
you,
around. I
but
mean,
yeah,
but like they're really coming to prominence. Like
right,
really made a name for themselves and really made their bones in this election.
for sure.
With a lot of what they did. I mean, wow, is it amazing? And they're down there. Um, they're down there at Mar-a-Lago camping out, man. Just having access, right there with the team. And so he's got some really great, on the ground stuff. He's watching what's going on, and he shared with his listeners. You want to hear for yourself a lot of what's going on in the vetting and how they're really narrowing down people who are with the Trump agenda and understand the mandate the American people sent. And he shared a couple of things. I'll share two of them with you. He said one of the questions they're asking is, what was your favorite policy from Trump's first term and why? So they're getting on there. And do you share Trump's worldview? Exactly which part? So like they're you can't basically what he's saying is we're not getting snowed like we did last time,
Right.
right? We're not leaving people in. People are with us, they're on board, and it's happening. And one thing you'll hear from him and you'll hear from the War Room on Steve Bannon said over and over and over again, promises made, promises kept, with these appointments and things. And I like one thing Bannon's been saying a lot. I used to push that guy off because I'd heard he was pretty raw, and he does have some hot takes, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy what he has to say. Um, and he talks about Trump took a bullet to the ear. He took a bullet to the ear and got a mandate election 2 months later. He gets who he nominates. He gets who he nominates.
Yeah.
And the guy took a bullet to whoever he nominates. Promises kept are promises are being kept. All right, and then Steve Day Show Friday Hour 1, the Dace Group issue 2 or 3 was the Rosa Parks and Bathrooms Nancy Mace, right, and how she's singing that bill up on the House, right. But the take was definitely a deeper look. I'd take a listen to that one too. They talked about is she the best messenger, and how actually we need to do some evangelizing in the Republican Party too. Like hey,
Right.
we'll take it, but she needs work too.
Oh yeah.
So really good analysis and thought on her. And that's a wrap. Most interesting podcast moments that I had out of what I listened to this week.
Excellent. Man, we do need to get a song. I'm really liking this segment a lot, actually. I really am.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Um,
I try. I listen to him. I do. I know it sounds crazy, but I do get in about 4 hours a day. And I have a nice. I settled into a nice rotation. And yeah, I mean, it's just a nice way to share it
so
with you guys.
so what do you think about we kind of talked about this a little bit pre-show with Gates being out now. But what do you think about the pick for the new AG?
I think it should be good. Man, I'll tell you. If you want a clinic in governing, just go down there and watch Florida. He saved us from the longshoreman strike. I mean, people don't forget about that. Trump
Mhm.
won in a landslide. Don't forget, but DeSantis said we're not doing that. We're sending in the National Guard, and the dude was like, "Okay, we're coming back. We're coming. You don't have to send the National Guard in."
We're just kidding.
I didn't mean let him suffer. I just that kind of slipped out.
Right, right.
I mean, that guy is putting on a clinic in governing down there. I'm not here. I'm not saying I'm not trying to take away from Trump, but
Sure.
I mean, but she's coming out of his state. So I mean, so it's got to be solid, right? It's
Well,
on board. She's smart. It's
the,
not a DEI hire. This
the
is somebody who had
Democrats
the chops.
the Democrats are shitting their pants right now.
I guarantee. I guarantee.
I've heard several talking points from some of the Democrats that are in the know, whatever. They don't say anything bad about her. They say she's competent and that I forget what the verbiage was, but basically they're scared shitless.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
they're in trouble.
I mean, if so gosh, it's hard not to get excited, right? But we get let down so many times. It is actually kind of hard to get excited. But I find myself, going up and down in a roller coaster, right? Because yeah, I definitely, in order to prevent this from happening again, some people there has to be consequences, right? There has to
Yeah,
be.
definitely.
So
And
where does
if
that
there's
start?
not,
Right, exactly. So where does that start, right? And then I think you have the classic question, right, of self-defense, right? At what point does defense become offense?
right?
You know what I'm saying? At what point do you become the aggressor? And I think that is a very delicate balance, right? And I think in the beginning, it's going to be sold as everything is aggressor, right? There's no self-defense here. This is all aggressor. It's just ruin everything. And I don't think so. I don't think it is ruin everything. I think certain people are in place to do certain things. I just wonder what keeps me from getting excited is will the machine allow it? You know,
Yeah.
will
That's why
so
I'm not excited.
right. Like, is Linda and this is pure speculation, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this, right? But is Linda McMahon going over to the Department of Education to move it to Oklahoma? Right? I mean, I don't know, right? But if that's what she's doing, because she ran a multi-location, multi-million-dollar company, right? I mean, they tour America and the world. I mean, WWE, WWF, right? So I mean, you know, she knows how to like move,
Right.
relocate and be remote, if you
Mhm.
will. So is she going over there to move it to Oklahoma? Um, is it true that they're going to on day one require everyone to return to work 5 days a week with a 20%, anticipated self reduction in work, right? They anticipate 20% will quit when they say everyone return to work Monday through Friday. And they said that'll be wonderful because then they won't have to pay any pension,
Right.
right? Or the people will put in to retire. So we'll get rid of these bureaucrats that are retirement eligible and just padding their retirement now.
Mhm.
They're just going to retire. So we won't, they'll retire at 55% instead of 60, right?
Right.
So they think a lot of that's going to happen. They think when they move the departments, right? If they can move 3 departments, um, then that'll cause about 30% of that combined 3 department workforce to quit. Those people will not want to leave DC, right?
Right.
Because that's somebody's wife or whatever who
Yeah,
works somewhere else.
they've got roots.
Right in DC, right? So, if they can move 3 departments and get 20% workforce wide to quit, then that will harm the property values in McLean, Arlington, and I forget the other one, Alexandria. So when that happens, they think then everyone else is going to be more apt to want to move. So they're purposely trying to tank the
The housing
markets in
market.
DC to break the monopoly. I think it's brilliant. I think it's wonderful. If that's the plan. If that's the plan.
Hola.
Oh yeah, you saw that, man. Some dude dropped some Spanish in the comments, and not every one of us speak it.
Hola.
And he speaks the 7th least spoken language in the world, and I speak the 6th.
Oh, well.
Would have been better off learning Chinese, but
Right?
it was too hard.
Right? Couldn't get them never mind, I won't say that.
Right?
Well, we're I'd say essentially a comedy podcast. It's all in jest.
I think so.
I couldn't get the sounds right when I threw the pots down the stairs, so I never could get the language right.
Hey, I was checking out Tubi, right? And now that's the free app that has
Right.
TV and everything, free TV shows and everything. It's pretty cool because it has all the old stuff, but you have commercials, right? But you can watch
Right.
Airwolf, you watch
Right,
3
right.
you watch all the old stuff is on there, A-Team.
Bears
Um,
clinging on these nuts.
so I got my 11-year-old into the Honeymooners.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But I'm like kind of half watching it. I'm watching them more than anything. Kind of listening to what he's saying more than I'm paying attention to the back. She's like, "Daddy, the background's paper." I said, "What?" Now look, and he's right. The window, it's a paper background.
I've never noticed that.
I never noticed it either. Because our TVs are so much better now. The definition is so much better now.
Right.
I'm like, oh my god, this set must have cost 15 cents at Radio Shack. Holy shit! I'm like, no wonder this thing.
That's
But
hilarious.
but dude, so I started paying more attention to some of the older shows and looking at the sets and stuff. How just how deep is this rabbit hole? On some of these older shows, it's
Uh-huh.
pretty bad, man. It's pretty bad. You got doors shutting and entire houses shaking.
Oh, jeez.
Oh man.
What was I think the Carol Burnett show had a lot of that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I used to. So I found on Amazon Prime. Laughing. Rowan and Martin's
Oh,
laughing.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god. First of all, so I was never allowed to watch that as a kid. right? Very inappropriate.
Understandably.
But it was. I mean, by the time I'm watching, it was in its God. It had to be in its second syndication, man. I mean, it was only like in the '60s,
Mhm.
right? Didn't it make it to like '70? I'd have to look that up. We don't have a producer. Hey, if you want to
Yeah.
produce this show for absolutely no money, just my respect, send an email.
Yeah. Yeah. Send your resume to.
Send an email to, right? I have no money. All right. Anyway, Rowan and Martin's.
If we had a sponsor like ZipRecruiter, it'd be
Yeah,
a
if we had
great place to plug that. Yeah,
right?
send your resume through ZipRecruiter. That's right.
60 so it ran from 68 to 73. I was born in 77.
Mm.
So I saw but by the time I was seeing it was syndication, but and I didn't get any of it cuz I was young, but I'm watching it now and the political humor is hilarious cuz it's
You
all
know,
history.
I started we talked about this a while back, and I got on there and I started watching. Man, I just couldn't get through the first episode, man.
No?
I couldn't. It's just so corny, man. I was
The
just
first
ugh.
one so the first one is the pilot and
Right.
that's the special.
It was
Um
special, all right.
it was a special that they made.
What up, Joe?
Two I think, hey Joe, 2 years. Hey, Joe, what's up, man? 2 years later, we got they got the contract to do the actual show,
Oh.
and that's when you had the door open, the whole because
Yeah,
that
see,
wasn't
that's what
on
I
the
remembered
yeah.
when I would sneak and watch it as a
That's
kid.
after. So you got to watch like the start watching at like the fourth or fifth episode or something.
Okay.
What
Maybe I'll
when
give
you
it
start
another
seeing
try.
like stars come, like when it starts getting a rep and people start showing up.
Yeah.
When Martin starts talking about John Wayne's coming, he keeps saying John Wayne's coming, and he's never come. But what happened was I looked it up. It worked. What happened was they kept saying he was coming to get his attention, to get him to come, and he came.
No shit.
Yeah, they kept slamming Burbank to get the mayor to come on because they
Oh,
knew
that's
if they kept
awesome.
slamming it, the mayor would come on. So they had this like this scam going where they just knew, and then it became like people wanted to be talked about.
Right.
You know,
Pop culture for sure.
exactly. But they said the first couple ones they did it on purpose, and that was John Wayne and Burbank, California. They kept
That's
slamming the
awesome.
two.
So maybe it'll work. Hey, comment, click, like, subscribe to our channel at YouTube. Hey, we're at 500 some. We'd really like to try to get to 1,000.
That's what
Just
we need. We need
yeah.
more.
So
We need
please,
more. So
subscribe, please.
and hey, we're actively looking at we got more guests coming up. We're actively talking to people. We've talked about it before. I was gonna get a guest. I was gonna get a guest on. I was gonna get a financial manager on. Um, and then as we're talking about what we're gonna talk about, it's, oh wait a minute. So that's all illegal. Never mind. Just shut it all down. He's like, yeah, it would have been wonderful if it weren't for the fact that all of it would be illegal and I'd lose my license. And he's like, yeah,
Oh wow.
third party advice over a fourth party platform. Yeah. I hear what you're saying, man. So that fell through, but that doesn't mean you know we're
Well,
not we're actively. I think we have a couple people in the schedule too. We got a
we do.
couple more umpires we're going to talk to. A couple
I
more.
wasn't gonna say anything, but since
Well,
we're already down this road, we are in talks. We're gonna have the podcast with the dancing umpire from the Savannah Bananas. So if
that's
you're
right.
into that, what a great show they put on. Um, so we're gonna have Vince in an upcoming episode. So that's something to look forward to. And we, like Lou said, we do have several folks already on the list spread out through the next couple weeks. So stay tuned.
And of course, we'll bring you all the commentary you could possibly bear.
Right.
Now we appeared on what was the name of that podcast where we reviewed the fourth kind?
Yeah. I never can remember it. Actually, I could tell you right here in just a
Dag
second.
nabbit. Anyway, we reviewed that movie, The Fourth Kind.
It's the abyss. Look, something the abyss.
The Abyss. Angela Does Horror. That's what it's called. No, I didn't know.
Whoa, hey, how you doing? Yeah. Well, you keep talking. I'll look it up. I'm gonna find it because now
Yeah.
it's driving me crazy.
So anyway, discuss this movie. It's a pretty interesting movie. It's got a scandal around it at the time because of how it was marketed. As a faction movie. I don't know if you've heard those types of. That's a new term that's come out now, particularly in literature. Faction, right? Like So what's faction? Like, well, we know George Washington crossed the Potomac, right? But the faction part is, man, that dude turned to the guy next to him and was like, "This motherfucking cold. I'm trying to go home." Like
Right.
nobody was there for the conversations that took place. Nobody knows what the conversations were, right? So the faction portion of it is when you try to look at their personalities, look at their writings, and try to extrapolate what might have been said at this time under these conditions based off what we know of him previously. And so, people write books on that, telling stories. I think Glenn Beck did 2 books on it. Um, Gosh, I have to look at it. They're both very good, like stories of Walt Disney, things like that, where the story of Desilu Productions, where he had that stuff, and all of those things. So it just it was an interesting sort of concept that's come along now. This sort of faction that you're seeing being produced, and
It is a cool concept.
it is, I think, because the event occurred, and they're trying to guesstimate the best conversation that would have occurred based off their personalities, right? Um, like Edison versus
Tesla.
Tesla and things like that.
You,
Discussions in the patent room and
you know
that's
what's
interesting.
funny is that soldiers and sailors and Marines, the times may have changed, but the attitudes don't. So
No,
some of them conversations. We already know some of the conversations that were going on.
absolutely, and human beings, right? All right, we're talking about human nature and conversations and sharing information. I've been going through the Rosicrucians and their secret rites and ceremonies. A very interesting secret society, right? And you've heard me say it before, right? It's one of the ones that was actually able to keep its inner circle secret, right? It's based off of like 3 books. They've only found like 2, which is how they know. And anyway, and then like I said, there's a lot around it, right? So
Mhm.
that's why I'm fascinated by it, and I'm trying to untangle it. So they're talking about the Rosicrucians' belief on fire and what they've written about fire, right? And these are
Fire,
Christians now. It's a
fire,
Christian
fire.
secret sect, right? Yes, yeah, yeah. And they're talking about fire and what the guy point and they add commentary after, right? The ceremony or the writing about it. And the commentary after was, there's no real science here. And all you've ever seen fire do is destroy, right? And then after it has destroyed, there is creation immediately. He's right. So they're taking from the fire worshipers and all these other people, and they're looking at this stuff and they're looking at fire and they're going, there's got to be something godly in here. He's like, and that's where you find these ceremonies all having fire at the center. It's just a very, very ancient symbol from the time of the first people who thought there were gods.
Well, the burning bush.
And the burning bush. The burning bush certainly is definitely a Christian symbol. But what they're talking about in the Rosicrucian writings is that they're looking back on other ancient writings
Hmm.
and saying, it was always looked at this way. Maybe we're missing something in Christianity. Like maybe there's something in here we're missing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't ascribe to any of that. I'm just going through it all, right? I'm just listening to it, and it's just interesting to hear how people thought of the world. And the guy makes a very valid point, right? He said these are the words that they had to describe fire at the time. It's the only words they had. They didn't have atom, right? They
Right.
didn't have conduction,
Right.
right? They didn't have convection. What they had was fire is the end state of matter. It brings about the final state, right? Is what they were
Billy
saying.
Billy said fire didn't destroy my steak, but it did create a
It
tasty
creates
meal.
it sure will. Now let me ask you this, do you leave it pink inside? My favorite is people are like, "It's blood," right? And I'm like, "Oh, but really? 'Cause are you stupid? You'd be eating spots, idiot. It'd be fucking crunchy, okay?
Yeah.
Alright? There's prothrombin in cow blood too, alright? Okay, you'd be think about that. If that was blood, you'd be okay? So that it'd be caught in your teeth. You'd be like, "Hey, you got a little
Right,
scab in your teeth. You're
right,
eating
right.
steak, you're eating hamburger, you get a little scab in your teeth." It's disgusting, isn't it? Thinking about it, they figured out a long time ago. People don't like to buy gray looking meat.
Yeah,
Okay, just letting you
yeah.
know. What's in it? I have no idea. I honestly, I have no idea what makes it look pink. I have no idea.
Not only do I not know, I really don't give a shit because it's
Right,
tasty.
right.
I am a full-fledged member of PETA, by the
Eating,
way.
yes,
Yes, people eating tasty animals.
absolutely.
1000%.
They got their headquarters right at Norfolk. They used to do the fishing tournament right
Oh,
outside their
yeah.
building. Remember that? The
Yep.
two morning guys. I forget their name. The
Oh,
goofballs in
god,
the morning.
Tommy and Rumble.
Tommy and Rumble. That's right. The one guy. Yeah, the one guy. Didn't the one guy get fired for saying
Yeah.
Trash Mountain was leaking or something?
Yeah.
I
I
forget.
forget. I think it was, Tommy. I don't remember which one.
I don't know. Yeah, but Tommy and Rumble in the morning. That's right.
Yep.
Tommy and Rumble in the morning. I forgot.
Used to listen to them all the time. Hey,
Everybody knows them in Norfolk.
yeah, Joe texted me. He said he's got a story about an HM he wants to share. So
He should
if you're
come
still
on.
listening, call in.
Yeah,
Or
Joe,
or
call in.
better yet, if you really want, I'll send you a link real quick and you can jump on live if you
Send him
want.
the link.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Send him
Hey,
the
why
send
did
him
I
the
send you
link.
the link?
Send him the link.
Hey, send me your email address real quick. Seriously, so I'll send you the link.
So
Um, go ahead.
yeah. So we were talking about some. So anyway, we're talking. When I was talking about the financial guy, we were saying about coming out here. And I'm not saying anything he was talking about. He talks about things that are way beyond me, way above my head. Um, but I did sit in a presentation talking about some savings accounts for a couple of nonprofits I belong to. And the investment bank that we use presented to us and said they anticipate some deep regulation cut when the Trump administration comes online
Hmm,
in technology, energy, and exploration, I think, or something else. But they're expecting heavy cuts to regulation. Oh,
really?
and banking, and banking. He said they're going to unleash some of the banking so a lot of these smaller banks can do more. They're gonna
Hmm,
Yeah, they're gonna try to decentralize a lot of it and let these smaller banks do more again. Um,
good luck.
so what he was saying was, we and others like us are aggressively positioning to pursue these new market opportunities and expansions, and we will be applying that to your portfolios as well.
Hmm.
So I know everyone is freaking out on social media. I'm just telling you what the investment banker told our nonprofit that and he's a member of it, right? So if our nonprofit tanks, he's screwed too. Like his
Right.
name's the first to get buried, right? Right.
He's
So
heavily invested in more
yes,
than
yeah,
just
yeah. So
money.
he would not be doing that. He would not be telling us this if it were not true, right? Because I know people here investment banker bad. Not true. Um,
Not
but
always.
yeah, human being bad with
Yeah.
title investment banker. But so with banks poised to aggressively invest in these markets, uh, yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at a nice economic boom coming soon.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I think so. I think things are going to be expensive. I think they'll stay expensive. I think they'll stay expensive for two reasons. And Rickards, who I love, wrote a book on this. Um, I had to. I have to get you the title for it. But it was about the supply chain and what COVID did to the supply chain and how it's not recovering and things that need to be done. But he also offered a map for the future, and his map for the future was you see how disrupted things got when a bat, I mean, whatever, yeah, when a bat flew 12 miles and dropped a growler in a pot that someone ate in soup and gave us the Black Plague of 2020. If you believe that, a bat flew
Right.
12. Okay, so if you buy that, okay. Uh,
I'd buy that for $1.
I get it's so ridiculous when you say it out loud, man. Like, and people were canceled for that crap, man.
Yep.
You still get canceled for that, man. You still get canceled for that.
Can't cancel me.
I don't know. It was just funny, man. Anyway, wait, what was I saying? I got distracted by the bat.
You were talking about the financial. We're gonna have. He was saying he laid out a plan. Um,
Yeah. Well, anyway,
I
he
don't
did
know.
lay out a plan to invest in technology and all that other stuff. You know,
Hmm.
it was a
What
long
was it?
story that was going nowhere anyway. It was better to
Excellent.
end where we did.
Oh, all right. So about them bats. You ever eat bat?
No, I've
I
seen them, but I've never eaten.
actually
I've seen them
have.
everywhere, but I've never eaten them.
So when I went through uh, jungle environmental survival training in the Philippines, way back in the day,
Yeah,
we had to eat a bat, and it's fucking gross, man.
I bet.
It's just yeah, but you'd be surprised what you eat when you're hungry.
I had a guy when I did SEER, we had a guy catching snakes, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it was delicious. I wasn't afraid of it, but we had guys that were afraid of it. But by the third night, they weren't.
Oh yeah, of course not.
They loved it, man. They were like, "Man, I should have tried this the first time." I was like, "Yeah, you should have, man."
This is the best chicken I ever had.
Exactly, exactly. It's like alligator. It tastes like nothing.
Yeah.
It does. There's no taste to it. It's meat, man.
It's not bad. I mean, it's yeah, a little
Yeah, I mean,
fried,
it would take on whatever batter you put it in.
right.
But I
Yeah.
remember talking to him, and he was like, "Hold on one second, man." And then he like went around the tree and came back, and he's like, "You want to break its neck? All you gotta do is swing it." I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "Harder, harder. There you go." Just one of those hillbillies, man. He just
Yep.
grew up doing it, man. He just
Yep.
grew up doing it. I
So
got lucky.
did I ever tell you this the story of my buddy Tony LeMay, how he like became famous in Tonga? They were down there on a deployment, and there was
No.
a cow that was having a complicated birth, and he grew up cattle ranching. Man, he went out
No.
there and he birthed the calf, and so that was like in Tonga, that was huge fucking news, man. So he was in the paper about it and all. This old country boy from Oklahoma, man. You know what I mean?
Nice. Nice. I Carl got us into the Thai ER for 2 weeks, right? So I was the liaison there, and I was there every night. And a different corpsman would come every night.
Of course you
And
were.
one time I was there, and in Thailand they got the girl boys.
Mhm.
So they had this one guy nurse, and they would keep showing me the pictures of him dressed as a girl,
Oh,
asking
shit.
me if I thought the girl was pretty, like I didn't know it was him,
Right.
right? But he would be in the corner, like, giggling like a schoolgirl. It was like the weirdest it was the we it was like being in it was like being in like a 16 Candles genre movie,
Oh, God.
right? Where, like, you're in a scene over here, but this other scene is unfolding over there. It was like the weirdest, and it was crazy. Anyway, I'll tell you about the whole thing and I've told bits and pieces of it before, so I don't mind telling it again. But I was like, no, no, I don't. I was
God,
like,
that's
no,
one ugly bitch.
right? We gotta stop that. But two things happened, right? The first day, Carl's there,
Oh,
and,
God.
we're all facing the treatment area, and he's facing us in a wall, so he's not really seeing what's happening behind him.
Mhm.
So there's a kid brought in, and the kid is just freaking out. And so Carl's talking to us about, Thailand and how, he knows it all, right? Like the GDP and the king and queen. He's just going through his like,
He done
he
gone
loves
native.
Thailand and, he knows everything about, and he does, right? I mean, he does know a lot about, right? You and I both know the guy's a genius, man.
He went native, man.
Right, right. He went native. He's a genius, right? The guy's a genius. So he's talking about that, and he's like, and so the kid's freaking out. He looks back. He's like, yeah, you get, there's a lot of communal living. He's like, and there's a lot of bacteria and ear infections, and so they're all sleeping in one area. So you just get bugs and you know how he gets, right? Germs, fuck Carl, fuck, you know how he's right. He's all animated, right? Talking about and our eyes get big, right? Because this dude has now taken a scissors and put like 2 inches down this kid's ear.
Oh,
Right? Yeah.
jeez.
Yeah. And our eyes are huge as he's retrieving the biggest freaking cockroach I've ever seen in my life. And Carl just turns and he's like, "Oh, there's a freaking cockroach in your ear." He's like, "Hey, again, man, there's just no sanitary here." He's like, "So it's just, he just doesn't miss a beat, man."
You know
Or a
what?
giant cockroach, you
You
know.
you might be fucking I gotta say it, man. he had a heavy influence on you, and you don't even realize it.
No, I've said it to him. He did, and I know, and I've said it to him. It's just sad he won't see it, but that's fine. I've said, he has very positive, very positive.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Joe to the show.
Yeah.
What's
Joe,
up, Joe?
what's up, man?
Hey guys,
What's happening?
Not
Big
too much.
sexy with his shirt off and shit.
I was gonna
trying to-
say, I see you got like the blanket, but it looks like a dress.
right?
Looks like-
The moo.
Yeah, I got my leg up. Yeah, I mean, gotta elevate my leg for keep the
What's that
swung
have to
down.
do with you not wearing a shirt?
I'm in bed.
right, right.
So,
Oh man,
you texted and you said you had a story about a corpsman you wanted to share.
Yeah, so you were talking earlier about the coal, and you mentioned the corpsman and stuff. Just I thought about it, and it's something I think about frequently because it was a situation I was in. It was my last deployment. We were in Misawa in Japan, and it was, I want to say it was a weekend or something like that. There wasn't a lot of people in the hangar, but they had some construction guys walking around. So the locals, local Japanese guys were doing some construction in the hangar. I think they were doing some upgrades to the door or something like that. I forget what it was, but I'm walking through one of the drive-through spaces that goes from the outside, allows the vehicle to drive through and go access the hangar area. And I come across this guy on the ground, one of the workers, older gentleman. And again, it's like a ghost town in the hangar for the most part. There's not a lot of people around. So quickly, I try to run over to down the hallway. I start yelling for some help. One guy comes out from the other side of the hangar, starts to, check on the guy. Before he can provide aid, I run upstairs to the corpsman. I yell down the hallway to say if he was there. I wasn't even sure if he was there. So with that, about 3 other people come out of the woodworks, and out comes the corpsman. After one guy is already providing some resuscitation to the guy on the ground. He was out, so they were giving him CPR. The corpsman jumped in, started giving him CPR, and obviously we're on the radios. We're trying to call for emergency services. We get the door open. He switched off one time with someone else because he was going for a few minutes. So before they were able to get him in the ambulance, they got him on a cart. And I still remember this, and because I'm at the point now where I'm now directing traffic, right? I'm getting people out of the way. I'm directing the ambulance over, and the corpsman is on the side of the gurney, standing on this gurney, giving this dude CPR. From the time they put him on the gurney, they rolled it out into the driveway area. They loaded it on the ambulance, and he's still on this thing as they're loading it in and doing CPR the entire time. And they shut the door, and finally, one of the EMT guys is the one that took over for him and just kind of kicked him out of the ambulance, and they drove him over to assist if they need, I guess, if needed also. So yeah, I remember this dude. Like I said, he was up on that thing, man, the entire time, and just I could just still picture him on top of this gurney performing CPR on this guy. Unfortunately, the guy didn't make it, which was really sucked. It was pretty devastating to the guys that were there because we're just on deployment, everything's going fine, and all of a sudden there's a guy on the ground, and we're in a combat situation. It's just
it's Misawa.
Everyday life.
Misawa, man. It's Misawa, where they planned Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
But that corpsman, I'm telling you, man, that corpsman was pretty badass doing that.
That's awesome.
He was focused, he was locked in, and he did his job to the best of his ability. And not due to any lack of effort did that guy not make it.
Yeah, you can't save them all, unfortunately, man.
Hey, Joe, you were in Misawa, right? Did you get around that base, the whole base?
I got around a pretty good portion of it.
Good. So, were you able to ever make it out to the scout shack where the Boy Scouts are?
Was that on the back side of the flight line?
It's on the back side where the hills are cut like carriers.
Oh, I never noticed. I don't know if I ever noticed that. I know we went out there, but I also went
Yeah.
out there and it was snowing too. So
So
it
Joe, so I went out there for summer camp, and it was the craziest thing in the world. And I thought like maybe, but I could see where like if you're out there for UDP or something, you might not, see it. There'd be no reason for you to be out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
So, but it was the coolest thing, and on and off. I'd been in Japan 10 years. I had never been to Misawa except for the Boy Scouts summer camp. And
Wow.
I went there and I learned two things. Number one, you learn immediately why it's called the land of the rising sun in Misawa. Okay. That sun fucking comes up at 4 a.m., 3:30, 4 a.m. And it fucks those kids up. Okay. All right. You got 8 and 9-year-olds running around like chickens with their heads cut off at 4
Yep.
a.m. and they are dying by 2:30. And they still have events and dinner and like they still
Yep.
gotta cook their own. I mean, this is Boy Scout camp, and they're playing
Yeah.
flag football at 4:30 in the morning
Yep.
outside my tent. Anyway, long story longer. One of the troops forgets something, and the guy says, you want to come? I'll show you our scout shack. And I said, sure. So he takes me around. We go up a hill. He says, do you notice anything as we come up here? I said, no. Do I notice anything? I don't know. I mean, like, could be anything, right? I hate questions like that. Do you
Pretty
notice
vague.
anything? I notice everything, right? Yeah. So anyway, I said, no, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? So we get up there and he says, look at the building. He goes, back up, go all the way out there. So I run all the way out, man. I run, right? Because it's a little bit, it's flat, and I run. And I look, and he said, can you tell? And I said, no. And he said, you're in the Navy. And I'm like, well, what? And he's like, the ship, the superstructure. I'm like, oh, I've never been on a ship, man. I know what that is. I'm like, oh, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I have no idea. So he says, this is the superstructure of a World War II carrier. He said, look down. You're on a cutout of a carrier. He said
Wow.
the Japanese would fly. They cut the mountains to look like the
Damn.
carrier, and then built superstructure with bamboo roofs, right?
Damn.
And not just the carrier, but like the other ships too, right? Like the battleship and stuff. One is a carrier. The one we were on was the carrier. The other ones were different ship cutouts, like as they would be parked in Pearl Harbor. And the Japanese would fly over and drop stone bombs to smash the bamboo roofs so they could continually practice running on the same
Oh, wow.
superstructure.
That's
And he
crazy.
said, it's our scout building now. And I was like, that is the coolest like
It's an
thing in the
amazing story,
world,
man.
man. And then we got out, and because it was a weekend and there were no flight ops, we drove a little out further to where we kind of shouldn't. And he said, look at it. And you could see it's a V-shaped like mount, like it's cut, and he's like, isn't that all? I said, that is so cool, man.
That's
And you would
wild.
never
So-
the weirdest thing, it was the weirdest piece of history that I got to see traveling around, just I don't know, it was random thing, man.
I have a story that's kind of, well, it's not as cool as that, but
Well,
kind of
Joe-
right in
Joe's
line
going
with
PPR, man. I just saw it.
with
Cut down.
Joe. His story kind of, we had a code in the ER in Japan one night, and same thing up on a gurney, just full blown code, and we're about to shock the guy, and we had one of the nurses. I'm not going to mention names because I'll tell you offline. But anyway, she's up on the gurney, and I'm like, "Hey, you might want to get down. You might want to not touch him." No, I got it. Bitch flew right off the gurney, man. I laughed so fucking hard,
That's horrible.
completely inappropriately. But
Stand clear.
damn, that shit was funny,
Charging.
man. And then I got talked to afterwards how inappropriate it was for me to laugh during a code. I'm like, well, he didn't hear it. I mean, fuck, he didn't get offended. I guarantee that.
That's horrible.
Right?
Yeah, shit.
I know I've told this one before, right? I'll give you a Japan story real quick, Joe. So I was in Iwakuni. You ever fly down to Iwakuni?
No.
Okay, so Iwakuni is real small.
Like a nookie.
Small clinic. It's a Cracker Jack clinic. There's nothing happening there. It's a Cracker Jack clinic. So I'm on duty, and you could see from like where the Marines are in the back, the corpsmen up front. It's just a weird way the clinic is set up in this one hallway. You could see all the way down to the urgent care entrance. So I'm in the hallway doing absolutely nothing as usual, for harassing people. And I look and I see the Japanese ambulance, and I'm like, oh man. So I go down, and if it's Japanese, we don't have surgery, we don't have anything, man, right? So I'm like, why is the Japanese ambulance here? So I go down, and for those of you listening, I speak Japanese, right? So I go down and I stop and I ask the ambulance guy, I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? Right. And I'm an E5. I'm E5 at the time. Yeah, it was E5 at the time. And he's like, oh, we have a motorcycle accident. This guy broke his leg. And I said, what do you, so like, go, like, why would you come here? Right. And he said, well, he's insisting we come here. And I said, oh no, man. I said, open the back. I'll tell him to go. I'll tell him. Right. And he's like, will you? And I said, sure. So he opens the back, and I know the person. I'm like, hey, I know. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, I got hit by a car. My leg's fractured. I said, I see it. Why are you here? He's like, oh, I heard they don't give pain medicine in the ambulance, man. I heard Japanese don't give pain medicine. I said, shut up, man. Go to the hospital. Get out of here, man. Go to the hospital. You need surgery, man. That's your bone.
Nice.
We don't have a surgeon here. Get out of here, right? So I'm telling him to leave as the PA comes out and goes, what are you doing, HM2? And I'm like, oh man. I was like, look, it's an open tib fib fracture. This guy needs to go to Otake. He's like, you can't tell them to go. Bring him in for an x-ray. I was like, it's right there. The bone was right there. I was like, I'll tell you, the Japanese had it controlled, right? They had the pneumatic splint. Remember that? The old school pneumatic? It was it was an old bean splint, Joe, that used to go around, and then you'd suck the air out, and it would like fit right to you. It was like really cool, right? But retards couldn't use it, so they got rid of it. Just like mass trousers, right? Mass trousers are awesome, but retards couldn't figure out you're not supposed to cut it, even though it says do not cut. Right? So somehow it would short circuit, and they'd be like, cut those off. And anyway, long story longer, good gear gone. So I'm sitting here, and they bring him in. And he just proceeds to bleed all over x-ray while they try to take x-rays. And it's just a nightmare, man. And I remember the nurse comes in, hey, I got the morphine, right? And I'm like, well, do you have the Tubex? I'll be back with the morphine. That's what I thought, right? Then the doctor's telling him to put the C-collar on, and he goes, I don't want it. She goes, fine, it's your neck. Right? So that's what's going on here. I'm like, no. I'm like, you can't do that, doctor. I'm not going to say her name. You have to. And then I look at him. I'm like, you're getting this collar. You understand? Like, why are you being so ridiculous, man? Like, why are you? This is absurd. You should have just went to the hospital. This is all your fault. You know that, right? Like, I'm telling him, right? Like, I'm like, this is all because you wanted pain medicine,
Right.
But the worst part is after they send him back to Otake, right? Meanwhile, me and the Japanese ambulance drivers were in the hallway watching it because I left after a while. And I told the Japanese driver, stay, because they're going to call you, right? And he's like, you think? I said, yeah. He's like, I think so, too. So he stayed. And, of course, they were like, hey, he needs to go to Otake. And we were like, So he gets in. They go to Otake, right? Everybody left, man, Joe. Everybody left. There was blood all over the x-ray room. The x-ray tech was like looking like,
man.
I said, I'll help you, man. Go get a bucket. Yeah, I'll help you. So I stayed and helped him clean up. To add another level, Andy, that Andy will appreciate because Andy knows this guy. I'm telling Carl the story, right? Immediately after, because I can't believe this shit went down. And I'm telling Carl, right? Oh, because he also saw me in the middle of it, right? And he left, right? Because again, Carl's a genius. He knows to leave, right? And
right.
So I'm telling him the story.
Nope,
he's like,
not going down that way.
He goes, I keep waiting for the part where you tell me I'm leaving because this is a fucking lawsuit. But I'm guessing you never said that. So I'm going to tell you this right now, Petty Officer Delpreet. About 10 sentences ago, you should have said this is a fucking lawsuit and walked out of there. Don't ever be in that room when that's going on ever again. Ever. Because that is a lawsuit. But
nice.
It's insane, man. You're right. Wild stuff happens, and it happens when you least expect it. And it's not and I think you'll appreciate this, Joe. And I want to thank you for telling your story. I know I didn't make it, but I want to thank you for telling your story. It's my belief every veteran has a story, and Andy hears me say this 1,000 times. Every veteran has a story. It's not that I don't want to tell it. It's just that there's not a common frame of reference for me to tell it to. You have to have a common frame of reference, man, or you're not gonna laugh at the same parts. You're
Right.
not gonna, it's not gonna make sense, and you're gonna judge me.
Yeah,
And then I'm gonna judge you, and then we're not gonna get along.
that's right. Real quick, before we get out of here, I had to tell you this. I don't remember if I ever told you, Lou. We had a kid worked in the ER with us. His name was Ross. He was
Yeah.
half Japanese.
Yes.
Spoke fluent
Yes.
Japanese, right? So we get a call that our Japanese ambulance is bringing in one of our sailors, and that he's having chest pain. So Ross is talking to him on the phone. Well, they pull up, right? And I get out there, and the guy comes running in. I don't know what he said because I don't speak Japanese. He's doing this and saying some shit. I'm like, Ross, get out here. And he's like, well, what's going on, Ross? He says, oh, they're doing CPR on him. I'm like, oh, well, we should probably get him out of the ambulance, get him in the trauma bay then, right? So we get him out. Right. And they're pulling the gurney in, and the Japanese dude's on the gurney doing CPR, and Ross's eyes just got like this. I'm like, Ross, get the fucking work, dumbass. And it like snapped him out of it. But man, he was just, it was the funniest shit ever, man.
He was funny, man. On the same vein, I got to tell you a quick Ross one, man. We had a guy come in who was wildly inappropriate in the ER. He was a retiree, talking about like how he's having sex with the mom and the daughter.
Oh,
and he's in the waiting room with the daughter.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's not his daughter, right? It's the mom's, like,
Right,
you know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
but he's just wildly inappropriate, right? He's a Purple Heart recipient. He doesn't remember how he got it. He just woke up in a sea of blood with dead Iraqis and his team everywhere.
Wow.
Right? Like, this is his story. Like, he's just, it's off the rocker, right?
Right.
And I'm like, Ross, talk to her. He's like, no, Chief, she's a retard. I already tried. Because I was just gonna say, go see if she's like safe. Like, or like that. She's a retard. I already talked. I was like, are you serious? He goes, I can't get her to look up from the phone. It's like she's just like trying to say like hi. All right. She's like,
Okay, one last one, real quick. We had this this guy in Hawaii. He was Filipino, right? He was a second class. We fired him from every he's just incompetent as hell, right? So I got one of the other Filipino guys. I said, hey,
We've all had one of those.
go talk to this guy, because maybe it's a language barrier, right? Maybe he just doesn't get it. And the guy we sent to talk to him he's a pretty religious guy, never cursed or anything. And he came back. He said, HM1, that dude's just fucking stupid. I'm like, well, if you're saying it, it's got to be true.
right?
Anyway, Joseph, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on, dude. I know it was impromptu, but it's a good story and great story last night as well. And exciting news, man. That's awesome. You're starting this complex down there.
Trying to. It's that's
Tell us
Charlotte
about it real quick.
Yeah.
So I down in Northeast Florida, there is no real indoor facility for sports. We get rain here a lot, and obviously the temperature in Florida is hot. So when it rains, for the most part in this area, the fields get flooded quickly, and they stay like that for days. They'll stay soggy or whatever, just not usable, and kids lose out on weeks of training. They got a game on a Saturday. Well, they haven't practiced in 3 weeks because the field's been wet because it rains every day for a couple hours at a time. So the fields are always staying soggy. So I kind of floated the idea a few years back to a buddy of mine, like, hey, we need an indoor facility around here. But at the time I was thinking like we need like a batting cage. Everywhere you go, there's batting cages somewhere. There's a couple out here, but that's really about it. So
if this is quickly, holy fuck, I don't want to hear the long version.
After going up to Pennsylvania and seeing Joel's facility up there, I was like, you know what? That's what we need down here. Yeah. We need a giant indoor field so kids can actually play, like practice like they play, on a field. Like you hit a somewhat fly ball, you can play field work, you can do a bunch of things inside this place that you can't do in a batting cage. So that's kind of where it started at. I've been kicking around for a while, and just like a couple weeks ago, I kind of mentioned it to my wife, and I was like, you know what, I want to start doing this. And I called Joel, and he put me on to Shiloh, and it's just been one thing after another. And I found out yesterday, a fellow shipmate of mine that I used to work with in the Navy, he happens to work for a company that actually builds these facilities in
That's
Alabama.
awesome. That's fucking awesome.
So yeah, small world. So now, a couple weeks from now, he's going to get me on the phone, talk with his designers and whatnot, and see if we can't get this thing kind of put down on paper, so I can start looking into how I can get this funded.
You should try the Seabees. They can build hangars and gazebos. So I'm told.
Slowly. But they can
Slowly.
build them. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. I wish you the best of luck.
It is.
And once
It
you
is,
get
man.
once you get it all done and complete, I'm coming down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take a tour.
Absolutely. Everybody's invited.
I'll connect the shaggin' wagon and I'll pull it down there and
Yeah, bring the
what's that?
Bring the pup.
Oh man, yeah, she goes everywhere with me.
Speaking of that, this is mine over here. She's
knocked out.
knocked out. Yep.
He's a good puppy. Good puppy. Lou, any words of wisdom before we punch out of here?
No, just like we said, if you click like and comment, it always does. It does help the momentum of the show. We love having you out here. Enjoy your participation. Join the conversation. Don't be afraid to comment. Come on.
We don't ask for anything.
Send Joe a link.
Yeah, we don't ask for anything except you subscribe to the channel.
That's it, man.
Maybe hit that like button once or twice, 3 times maybe.
I'll get back to my boring life of 4 hours of news. I'll tell you, it gets depressing someday. But the good thing is though, you do start to catch what shows are going to have similar content, and you can kind of blow through. But sometimes you're like, man, I can only hear the same story,
right?
Is
it at least maybe a different perspective? Slightly.
It is. No, it's great. I mean, I like I said, I have a rotation. I have a nice rotation that keeps it fresh because I did figure out who kind of has similar content.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know if this guy's saying it this way, this person's kind of probably saying it the same way.
Yeah.
So I can go over here and over there. If I start hitting repeats of stories and themes, like if it's a dominant theme, then I have some. It's weird, man. I have some deep pocket podcasts for like times when like the cycle is
it's too much.
The same. Yeah, if there was a terrorist attack, it would dominate for 2 days.
Right.
Okay, I don't need all that. So I have like some sports podcast. I have some, other things. But yeah, it's a dude. I'll do it for you. Though. I love it. I have to know. Well,
we appreciate it. I appreciate it. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch y'all next week. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table with Andy and Lou, an Admiral Media production podcast. All information at the time.